What's going on, people? It's Mr. Door back again with the previous show. I hope everyone's fit and well. And yes, it's been a long 2 weeks. International break is finally over, and Premier League football is back. It's 11 cup finals for Nottingham Forest and as well for Wolves. But this is one of the biggest games of the season for both clubs, and I'm happy to announce that I've got a Wolves fan as well. Let's announce him. Rich, how you doing, Rich?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Yeah, like yourself, I've been missing the football, or league football anyway. It feels like it's been forever since we
Yes.
feels forever since I've seen Wolves lose, which is the last time we played. So hopefully it's a better game than the Leeds one at least. But yeah, looking forward and great to be on the channel.
Yeah. As well, I like to promote people's YouTube channel. I know Richard is with the Wolf Fancast. Tell everyone about the channel so people can follow and subscribe to it.
Yeah, of course. So we're Wolves Fancast. We are the longest running independent Wolves podcast. We
Okay.
started crikey way back in I think about 2009. I think technically it used to be
Really?
not. It used to be a friend of mine, Dave Evans, almost uni project, and then
Yep.
stopped it for a bit. Started when basically the year we got relegated from the championship, and
Right.
then continued on when we were in League One at a point where, and you'll probably appreciate it yourselves, where the club's kind of quite happy to engage with fan media, and yeah, it started as a podcast, and it's kind of carried on, and of course, I think like with most things, we're on YouTube now as probably one of our
Yep.
biggest kind of viewerships, but we're at Wolves Fancast here, there, and everywhere. You know, feel free to check us out. We, similar to yourself, we do match previews, match reviews. We do a tactical analysis show as well as interviews across the board as well.
Yep. So, like I said, people follow Wolves Fancast. It's in the title. So, if you can do a massive favor for me, do it now at the end of the show. Make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. Listen, as I've always said, there might not be a Forest channel, but I like to promote all the Rebel channel because, like I said, we're all here for one reason and just talk about Forest and talk about football. And Rich talks about Wolves and I talk about Forest. So, make sure everyone subscribes to this channel. Right, let's get to it. First of all, Let's talk about the league game at your lot's place. You beat us 1-0. Um, can you remember that game and talk about it, Rich?
Yeah. I was going to say, without it sounding too drab, it wasn't a particularly good one,
It wasn't.
and
It wasn't.
and I think that probably sums it up to a degree. For a lot of this season, Wolves haven't been a particularly good football side, and I think when we played Forest, we just got rid of Bruno Lage. We had a caretaker manager come in, and it felt a bit of a do or die game for Wolves, that we needed something out of it. We needed points on the board because we'd
Yep.
started so badly, and it was just a game that we needed to get something out of. And I know you look back on it, and it was just so vital we got that win at that point, because we didn't really get anything else under the caretaker manager, because
Yeah.
there was that bit of a transition between us getting rid of Bruno Lage and Lopetegui joining.
Yep.
We had Steve Davis. I think it was about 6 games in total, and
Yep.
he's former. He's managed in the football league. He's been at the club as like an academy manager and things like that. But the gap between what was needed, he wasn't quite there. But he's a Wolves fan as well, so he had a lot of fans respect and still does. But we needed we needed that win, and we got it. But from my opinion, wasn't probably the best showcase I've seen
Yeah.
from a Wolves side.
I went to the game as well, and like I said, it wasn't great. Like I said, we missed the penno from Brennan
Yeah.
Johnson. I think it was the last seconds. I think Ryan Yates missed a good header as well. I
Mm.
think if I do remember, you lot hit the post as well with Costa. I don't think it was.
Yeah,
Costa.
because I was going to say, because it was a funny old one, because both sides had penalties, didn't they? Because
Yes, yes.
Neves scores from penalty spot. Johnson misses one late on, and you know we uh, we'd kind of gone through so many defeats and poor performances, that when you concede a late penalty, and at that point in the season, because it was October time, wasn't it, that Forest still had that, I was going to say, new Premier League club feel to them, where there was still that romance.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, hang on, we're away from home. We've got a penalty. And like, I think we all just thought, oh, we know what's going to happen here. And it didn't. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite the springboard for the start of our season. But I mean, I was going to say, I think that the most notable thing about the game wasn't actually what happened on the pitch, but it was the pre-match stuff with the social media, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, I remember the game. Like I said, it wasn't a great game. If Forest fans, if you did go to the game, comments, what did you think about the game? Yeah, it wasn't great, but you won it. Ruben Neves penalty. Before we do come on, I just want to go through comments, and I do like I said, Mohammed's the biggest game ever for the Reds. Let's win the game against Wolves and blow. Sit on with prediction 1-0 to Forest. The Reds and the way big respect to Wolves. Good side. They are a good side, and that's what I will be talking to Rich about. Certain players as well for the team. So if there's any questions for Rich, please put in the comments, and I will give them away. Drake says hi, Door. Claire says good evening, Door and Rich. Even Dad, Razdad, how you doing, Razdad? Good evening, guys. Wolves are a good side. It's must win for us. I'll take a 1-0. I think everyone will take a 1-0. Evening, Door. Navy which Navy game Saturday is a massive game as well. Someone doesn't like Cooper. The chap says 11 games left to be a super crazy, super Cooper. Ricky said we need to get midfield combination right if we get result. Ethan, how you doing? Evening, Mr. I hope you are well. I hope you can see you Saturday in the fan zone. Can you tell Chris Williams I have a drawing picture of him? Yes, people, as you know, Chris Williams. Sorry, Rich, I can't say this, but he hates Wolves, so he's a special guest here on Saturday. So if people, I will talk about the end of the show about the bottom man, but yeah, that's something I want to talk about later on. But yes, Rich, Chris Williams. I don't know if Rich, if you remember this, Rich. People in the comments will remember this game. A guy called Michael Branch. You remember him, right?
I remember Michael Branch, yeah.
Yes, I don't know. And the game it was, I think it was a 97. No, was it 97, 98? 97, 98 season when you beat us 2-1. And Michael Branch scored a goal, but he should have passed it back to the goalkeeper.
Yes.
That game.
Yeah. You know what? I find it fascinating how, some like fans, like there's a section of Norwich fans who have a vehement dislike to Wolves.
Yeah.
And on paper you go like, how? But it was because Kevin Muscat brutally injured Craig Bellamy when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And it is just, and you get it. You get these like pockets where I was going to say it's an irrational dislike. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
That Branchy moment. Don't get me wrong.
Branch. When he did that, I think that when I spoke to Chris Williams this morning, then that Michael Branch. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but it was just. I remember that day. Everyone went for him. Everyone went for Branch, but like I said, I don't dislike Wolves, but I do remember that game so well. So, Forest fans, in the comments, can you remember that game? What Michael Branch did? If you was there, please tell us. As well, Michael Dixon said, keep Cooper in injury screwed us to replace him. Everyone keeping him well as well. Let's talk about like your manager. Like I said, you changed it halfway through the season. Can't pronounce his name now. What's the Wolves manager's name again?
I go for Hulan Lopetegui.
Hugo Locatelli.
Yeah.
People, please don't go for me because sometimes I can't pronounce surnames.
I was going to say I'm the worst for it.
No, you're not worse than me.
I was going to say I'll get a stick for every time we sign a player whose name is remotely tricky. But yeah, I just call him J-Lop.
J-Lop. J-Lop. If Rich says it, I'm saying it. Right, so let's talk about him. Like I said, since he's been at the club as a Wolves fan, are you happy with the appointment and what's he been doing?
Yeah, I think he has been a manager who the club have been after since they took over. So way back in 2016, and they when the Fosun Group bought Wolves, the idea was to bring him in, and in the 11th hour, he decided to take the Spain job instead of
Mm.
Championship Wolves.
I don't know
Which,
if you know, Rich, did you know Forest was linked with him 3 years ago?
really?
Yes,
That's
it was linked with him 3
interesting.
years ago under, I think it was under Marinakis. I don't, Forest fans won't remember
Okay.
this. We was linked
Hmm.
with him, but then he went to, who did he go to? I don't know if
Would it go? Would it have been Seville at that point then? Do you end
it
up
might
going
have been
to Seville?
Seville. It might have been
Yeah.
Seville. Yeah, he Forest linked with him, and then he went to Seville. But yeah, carry on. Sorry, Rich,
Yeah.
carry on.
So it's someone who's always kind of been on the radar, and you look at his CV in terms of the places he's managed. It's not, you could argue it's not really worked out. It didn't really work out for the Spain job because he walked away before World Cup, took a Real Madrid job. Very good track record at Seville. So CV wise, it passes the test in my opinion. In terms of what he's done though, since he's joined, I think he has brought a level of, I was going to say, a little bit more tactical nuance than we've
Yeah.
had, especially in Steve Davis and under Bruno Lage. I think the one telling thing from the first half of the season for us was how unfit the players were. They they'd had, you can't go back to these moments, but they'd had a tour in America cancelled last minute, and it meant that I think we played a game or two less pre-season, things like that, and the players just were not sharp enough. And I think that's why hiring him just as the World Cup break started did give him that chance to really focus on some of those fundamentals. What I found most interesting seeing him being the manager is how much he changes things during a game. Now he's fortunate in a way that we have 5 substitutes, but I'd be gobsmacked, if there's been any manager since he's taken over who's made more subs than him at half time. If something isn't working, he changes it and he does tweak it, and he will kind of revert systems. So I think in his first game against Everton, it gets to the 65th minute and he goes to a free, he takes off a midfielder and brings on a centre half and goes to a back three, and we end up winning it, and you go, well, he's a tactical genius, and that's all well and good, and he's brought more than enough good grace, but I don't know, there's a little bit of a underlying sentiment that if you keep changing your team at half time, does that mean you can't really pick a team from the first minute to get it right? So he
Yeah.
seems to be very good at tweaking it in game, and there's been a couple of swings and misses, but overall, when he's made a change, it's had a really positive effect on the game, which is massive for us, and it's kind of been the difference in how we've kind of gotten a few points. And he seems to have done some of those things really well. But I think the players have bought into him. The players respect him, as you kind of would expect. There's a few players who he's worked with previously, even the likes of Ruben Neves. He
Top
was his fantastic player, but he was his
Yeah.
first manager, I
Was
think, or
it?
he was like he had him at Porto, so he might have been, whether he was his first manager or he was the first one who gave Ruben Neves captaincy for a game at Porto. So there's relationships throughout that. So I'm really happy with him so far. I think you only have to judge when he took over. We were bottom of the table, and we were a little bit adrift, and now, all right, it is still upsettingly close down there, but there's at least a bit of daylight between us and bottom place even, which there just wasn't before. We were rock bottom. So
Same
from
as us.
that point,
Same as
yeah,
us.
yeah. So from that point of view, I'm really impressed with him. He seems to have an idea of what he wants to do, and you can see it from the person he's brought in. But I think there's sort of certain elements that he's not going to be able to do until the summer, just because it's going to be about moving players on and bringing in that another player, one or two more players to actually complete the system. But so far, really happy with him.
You mentioned, like I said, players like Ruben Neves, Palance as well. You've got a decent, got good midfield, good forwards, defense. I saw your defense a bit a bit iffy a bit. But I was saying, what players has been stood out? I know you mentioned Neves, but is there any other players that has stood out for you this season with the new manager in charge?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Neves sort of this season has managed to take his game to another level again. He sort of had to,
Mm.
which it's massively needed. Since he's come in, Hugo Bueno, he barely played before this season. He's a left back from the academy. And I think he played a couple of games under Steve Davis. And if he's fit, he's our starting left back at the moment in terms of what
Is
he's.
there?
Yeah, I think he pulled his hamstring a couple of weeks ago. So I think they're saying he's 90% fit. So whether he starts or nor he does, I don't quite know. But he is someone who's really impressed. He's almost a very traditional like wing back style player that he likes to hug the touchline. He likes to he's got a wonderful cross on him which you don't see as much anymore. So
Mm.
he's been someone who's like really impressed, and he's been a diligent defender as well, which is something that you really want in your fullbacks as well this day and age. But
Mm.
for me, Mario Lemina, who came in the January
Yes.
transfer window,
Was he at Southampton?
yeah, he had a spell at Southampton. He had a spell at
Yeah.
Fulham,
Yeah.
and
Fulham
then
as
he
well.
kind
Yeah.
of went. Yeah, and then he went back to France, and he seems to have changed his game a bit since he moved back to France. Because I think he was always seen as a bit of I don't know, a bit of a playmaker, a bit, someone who drifted in and out.
Yep.
Whereas I think in France, when he's come to Wolves, he's much more of like almost an enforcer, a bit more of a number six, someone who likes to play a bit deeper and covers a lot of ground. And it's just meant that players like Neves have just had that little bit more space to not have to be necessarily the one to pick the ball off the defenders and to get a little bit more forward. So he's as well as being a really good player himself, Lamina, he's allowing other players to play well, and Kuna as well. I think the man who I guess started a bit of a brawl at the City ground at the League Cup match. He's not. He's only scored one goal, which is a bit worrying, but he seems to have a really good knack of bringing in players and linking up play. And you sort of mentioned that Wolves have got a really good, got a good midfield on
Yeah.
paper and in
Yeah. You
person,
have.
but we don't score many goals, and we can see, and we can be a bit
That's good
ropey
news.
at the
I
back.
like to hear that. I like to hear that.
I mean, up until Kuna scored a deflected goal against Leeds, we'd made it a calendar year without a centre forward scoring a goal.
Right. Okay. Wow. Didn't know that, people. Wow.
Jimenez hasn't scored for a year for Wolves. Diego Costa hasn't scored this season
He's
for
not scored.
Wolves.
He's not scored.
No,
Wow.
he's had spells out injured, but there's also been bad form as well. Yeah, Diego Costa's not scored for Wolves. A couple of
Wow.
the guys who have sort of dropped in and filled in haven't scored for Wolves. So, we Kuna coming in, he has seemed to have made us a better team. We've had players, obviously those sort of attacking wingers like Podence has chipped in with a few this season. Sarabia's got one, but it seems to a lot of it has been, since January because Kuna's been playing. So, yeah, we've got a couple of, tidy footballers. So I'm hoping that the international breaks kind of help them sort of gel a bit more and really kind of focus on what the starting 11 should be.
Before we talk about, ask Rich about Forest, we'll go through the comments as well. The guy Mark says it's going to be tight this weekend. Wolves have some great players, but we have to win our home games. 11 cup finals coming up, 100%. Mark Gary. Shout out to Gary as well. And if you want to be a member as well, people, the dollar sign at the bottom, it helps the channel a lot. Fabian Groom says we had a good run post World Cup. Let's go back to doing what the things we did, do things then. I know some injuries caused disrupt, but whatever we're doing, it works for us is as well. Even or how you doing, Lloyd? Dennis Red says a few injuries. Players hopefully coming back for this game, all of these games. A real boost. It is a massive boost. As you know, Canute is back as well for Nottingham Forest. But Chris Ward, he's out for the rest of the season. People, how do you feel about that as well? Put in the comments, and we'll talk about it later on. As well, this one. Why is Dore wearing a championship shirt? It appears like he's taking the back to the championship up. No, I just thought away the Forest top. What I know, I will not wear that again. I'm not Mohammed. No, I'm not going back down there. Rich, look, we talk about. We always talk about Forest opposite fan. What player are you worried about on Saturday, Forest wise?
I mean, part of me, I was going to say, well, it would have been. I was going to say, what my answer, it would have been Chris Wood,
We're
because
there.
his goal record against Wolves is ridiculous. Whenever it doesn't matter when moved to Newcastle, didn't he? Last year, scored against us, and he just always scored for fun against Wolves when he
And
was
he
at
gets
Burnley.
injured.
I know,
Oh,
genuinely. When I saw he'd been out for the season, my group chat was buzzing. Don't wish injury on too many people. But
that's
yeah,
all we need.
sorry.
Do it with Forest fans. That's all we need.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's for me, I do like Brennan Johnson. I think he's
Yeah.
a really fun player to watch, and he'd have been one of those for me that if Forest didn't get promoted, I'd have been interested to have seen him get a move to a Premier League if he didn't get promoted. But
Yeah.
he's someone who I think is a real standout for me. Where when you do well, he seems to be that guy. And of course, Gibbs White.
Yeah, let's mention Morgan Gibbs White. Like I know he's got like about a relationship with Wolves.
I was going to say that would be a good link into it because I mean I've always been a big fan of Gibbs White, but
Yeah.
I think the thing that he struggled with, particularly at Wolves, and I guess like a generation of players for like around his age, is you'll have seen it. He's very technically proficient. He's got
Yeah.
very good balance. There's not an awful lot he can't do, but because of that, he can play about 4 or 5 different positions.
Yeah.
Do you want to play? You can play him up front. You can play him as a second striker. You can play him either wing. You can play him in a 3-man midfield. But because of that, when he came through at Wolves, he didn't really have a role in the team. So he'd play 1 week, he'd play left wing. The other week, he might play centre mid. He might not, be on the bench the week after. And he never kind of got that consistency to sort of nail down and say, I'm a centre midfielder. I need to play every week here. And it did stall his development and a few other things. But Wolves cashed in on him, and would I have kept him this season given the quality that we have in our squad? I'm not quite sure. To be honest, I think if you asked me back when we sold him, I might have kept him. But then I look at how much we sold him for a player who cost the club nothing in transfer fees, and you can't say no to that. So yeah, he's definitely got it's cliche, isn't it? But he could definitely haunt his old club.
100%. People in the comments, what do you think? Do you think Morgan Gibbs White he's got to be up? Because to be fair, he's not been great for the last 2 or 3 games at Forest. And you always get the 1 or 2 people saying we Wolves fans to say we got bought. Basically took Mick out of you basically and all that, but it's still I still listen to me. He went on international duty, captain on the 23. He scored a goal as well, and it's going to be a fantastic player. Forest fans, what do you think about Morgan Gibbs White? Do you think he's got the best to come, or do you think he's a waste of money? But me personally, I think he's going to be a fantastic.
I think he's someone who like really progressed nicely through the academy at Wolves. He was in the England youth team that won the World Cup with Phil Foden. He played a starring role. He scored in the final.
Cooper was manager.
Yeah, so Cooper had him at Swansea on loan as well, where he did really well. And as soon as, to be fair, literally as soon as Forest got promoted and Steve Cooper, I think the odds were on that Gibbs White would sign for him because he wasn't going to stay in the Championship with Sheffield United. So it's ticked a lot of boxes for him. It's good to see him actually playing at this level and showing that he has got that level of Premier League quality, because I guess there was that fear that is he just good Championship or can he play Premier League? And I think he has proven it. And people have taken the mick out of the price tag. Don't get me wrong, but if you stay up this season, it's worth it.
Yep, 100%.
And
100%.
it's the same. It's the same with Mateus Cunha. He's on loan with an obligation to buy for 40 million, and that's and I believe it is an obligation. It's not even just the option, because I'm sure somewhere where it's like it's not dependent on if Wolves get relegated. So we signed a player for technically 40 million in the summer when we could be playing in the in the Championship, but that's the gamble we had to take, because it's almost worth it if we stay up financially, which is a bit bonkers to think about. So yeah, I think Gibbs White anyway. I think I like him as a player. I can see why he frustrated Wolves fans. I can see why he probably frustrates some Forest fans, but he has got something about him. And I think
he's still young. He's still young. I think I won't say Forest fans are frustrated. I think, like I said, because there's so much pressure on him and Brennan, so much pressure on them too, because they're when them two get the ball, it seems like something's going to happen. And Morgan Gibbs White, like it's not happened as much now with Brennan. Like Brennan's had his injuries as well, so I think it's still Forest fans. What do you think? Ask you a lot. What do you think? Do you think that them two are main key players as well? Get your comments in now. Before I ask the famous two questions, I'm going to ask Rich. Like I said, what is your score prediction? I will ask Rich later on. What his score prediction is. Anyway, before we do, let me go through comments before we ask to Rich. This is from Mark. Mark is White with the winner. That was a great winner with his famous celebration. Ben says, I got a good feeling there's going to be a sending off. Yeah. We hope it's for Wolves, because I know Wolves are 2 players sent off, but one got rescinded, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a funny one. We got the bench got very angry at the Leeds' fourth goal not being called up for an offside, not being called up for a foul. Mateus Nunes came out to protest. The linesman walked backwards into him, and the linesman then told the referee he'd been pushed, and Nunes got sent off.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
a bit weird.
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd one. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, so he is available for today. But yeah, Johnny not. But yeah, Wolves have got a bit of a ropey disciplinary record this season, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't think sending off, and considering how feisty the League Cup game ended as well, I think there might be a few tackles going in.
Yeah, it's shocking. This is from Danish Red. I can't really find the joy of one of our own players injured. We're going to need everyone until the season. And I think that's regarding Chris Ward, and it's absolutely disgrace. And again, this is my opinion. It's absolutely disgrace. And each to their own. I don't wish on anyone get injured. And people just forget Chris Ward is a striker. He scores goals, and he scored the equaliser against one of the best teams in the world, Man City. Does that not count? Does that not count?
I mean,
it's ridiculous. But what's your? No, because
I missed something about it.
What it is, Rich, because he cost 15 million. His wages will come up to 19 million, and he's not doing great. That's why Forest fans are going to be upset. But he's paid to score goals, and yeah, he hasn't been great, but he got the equaliser against Man City. That point could keep us up. That point could keep us up. We could have you lost to Man City twice this season?
Yeah, we got
exactly. Wolves have lost to Man City. We drawn with Man City, and Chris Wood scored a goal. I'm not trying to say Forest fans, well done, Dore, well done, but no, I'm just saying. I've seen so many people on social media as well. It's been the comments about how happy Chris Wood's injured. It's absolutely ridiculous. But people in the comments, what do you think?
I was going to say I'm allowed to be unhappy that he's injured. As the opposition fan, but I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, I'm going to look again. Well, T-Shop says refund 19 million. Oh, yeah, same again. But how much did Marcus White win in the first half? Kieran says, I think Marcus White will really show up in this crucial months. Paul says, Marcus White's best to come. Lloyd says, Marcus White will kick on with assists and goals in the last 11 games. We hope. Is Mark Ward? I think that we'll see that then right at the end of the show as well. Then Fancy Forest even took me in Ake. I never put Forest in Ake. Never. And Ben's last one. Feel sorry for Ward. He's been criticised from day one. He's proven himself in Premier level. And we all know he's not been great. But the way some Forest fans have said about him are happy he's injured. Ridiculous. Right. Wait, I always say that start of season, like you're in the bottom half. But at the start, where did you thought Wolves will finish? And where do you think Wolves will finish the season?
Okay. At the start of the season, I'm trying to remember now. I think I had us pegged down as mid-table. I think.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't think we just because last season, like first outside talk was getting into Europe, and then the wheels sort of fell off from basically this time of the season last year, and we basically sort of dropped like a stone into I think it was 11th in the end, but there was a point where we could have really easily obtained sort of 6th or 7th if we kept up form, but we didn't. And when I looked at some of the signings in the summer, we spent about 100 odd million, but it didn't feel like we were a lot better. So I think I'm sure I had us down as about 10th in the end, as a bit optimistically that we'd finish in the top half, and a few other teams would kind of drop off, so to speak. In terms of where we will finish, I mean, I think the best that, to be honest, I think the best any of us can do in this bottom 8 at the moment is finish 12th, just because, I can't see us managing, claw back Villa on 38 points at the moment. And, I think everything else is sort of fair game between us in the, that bottom end of the table at the
The
moment.
mini league. That's what I call it.
Exactly. But and look, I think you'll look at that the mini league as well, and you'll go, well, there's no reason why we can't finish top of that pack. But yeah, so I think if we finish 12th or 13th, let's say if we kind of stay roughly where we are at the moment, it's not going to be a great campaign, but from where we were in November, I think you sort of have to take it and just draw a line under it and go, well, how do we then break back into the top half of the table?
100%. People, there's 42 people in. If you can do a massive favor for me, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to my channel, and make sure everyone subscribes to Richard's Wolves Fancast, please. It's in the title as well. Right, people, get your predictions in if you can. What's with the score on Saturday? I'm gonna get Richard's score in as well. People in the chat, like I said, it's a tough game. It's a massive game for Forest. These next 11 games are massive, so answer people that there's going to be so much content from now to the end of the season. So please watch out for all of it. Right, Rich, last but not least, you're not going to say what's your score prediction? Last time you came to Sick Ground, you lost 1-0 in the League Cup.
Yes, we did.
But
Yeah.
it's the Premier League now. So what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 1-1. Yeah, 1-1. I can't see Wolves. To be honest, I struggle to see Wolves scoring, multiple amount of goals, and yeah, I think it just might be a bit of a scrappy affair if we're not careful, and neither side kind of quite showing enough to really go away with 3 points at the moment. But you never know, especially after the international break, how both matches have a bit of time with their players. But yeah, I'll go for 1-1 at the moment.
Which is going for 1-1. Do you think that's a good result for you? No, if you take 1-1, I know you.
I mean, it's better. I was going to say it's better than losing, but
yeah,
shit in it. But
yeah,
I think if it's kind of half dependent on other results now, because I think a few of the other games happening this weekend. I think Palace are playing Leicester, top of my head.
Yep.
I think that I can't remember who Leeds are playing as well. I think they're playing
Arsenal.
someone who are Arsenal as well. Yeah. So there's a couple of decent games. You've got West Ham, Southampton as well. So a couple of teams who are down there. So I think if both of us draw, it's a good point if everyone else draws.
Yep.
If we lose, and everyone else, everyone else gets those points. It's that bit of trickiness now, but
Yeah.
you got a great point against Man City, and you've had a couple of really good wins this season in terms of getting decent clubs, and I've been there as a Wolves fan. Even this season we've beaten Liverpool and we beat Spurs. But
Rich, everyone's beating Liverpool, so I wouldn't
yeah,
like,
everyone's
everyone's beating Liverpool, so it doesn't matter anyway. So,
but genuinely, I'd trade in those wins, for us of beating Leeds and beating Bournemouth, because then it's meant that Leeds are 3 points nearest to us, and it's meant Bournemouth are 3 points nearest to us, and those wins against the big boys, it's like a drug, isn't it, when you do it?
yeah.
But in reality, that's not who you're fighting against. So yeah, I think a draw, I think it is a good result if the other results go our way, and I think I can cope with the status quo staying the same.
So Richard says 1-1. I'm gonna go through the comments as well. And I got a nice comment from Richard. I live in Warsaw. I'm surrounded by loads of Wolves fans. Richard is the only one who talks sense. Top guy.
I'll take that.
He'll take that.
Yeah, another Rich as well.
Another Rich as well. So he's going to get a bit of love there. Mohammed says 1-0 to Forest. Paul said all hard games. They're all hard games. They really are as well. Raz Daz says 1-0 to Forest. Make sure everyone subscribe to Rads as well. Lloyd says I'm going to optimistic 2-0. Dennis and T to bag. That's Tower and 1-0. Danny says 1-0. Jim Brennan header. If people don't know Jim Brennan was a Canadian left back in the 2002 or 3. 2004, the Pool Hart. So if you don't know Jim Brennan from the Nottingham Forest. Michael Dixon says 2-1 to Forest. Spesh says 2-1 to Forest. Where have you been, Spesh? I've not seen you for a long time. Shout out to Spesh. And he's a member as well. Shout out as well. Richard is back again, 3-1 to Forest. The champion says 3 points, please. Come on, your Reds. And last but not least, Paul said a lot of twists and turns and it's come to us. Right. Well, last one. Eve says 2-1 to Forest. And shout out to Eve. I'll see you Saturday. Right, Rich, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Always great to be on, and enjoy your game on Saturday.
Yeah, are you going to the game?
I'm not, unfortunately. I'm not. So I was going to say I'll catch it other ways, I guess.
But like I said, people, I'll be there as well. So, but yeah, it's been a pleasure, Richard, and hopefully, Forest get 3 points and you get tissues and you'll be back in bottom 3.
We'll see.
All right, thank you very much, Richard, for that coming on.
Smashing. Not a problem. My pleasure. Catch you soon.
Cheers, dude. Thank you. Bye. Right, so that's Richard from Wolves Podcast. Make sure everyone subscribes to his channel. Before I do go, like I said, it's been, I don't know if everyone knows on my social medias. I've seen the mighty and the legend Chris Bob Williams. Pleasure to be with him all day yesterday. Went to City Ground as well. He has so much memories there. Being a player, scoring a goal against Reading. Forest fans, all the Forest fans will know as well. And I'll be there with him in the fan zone, between 12 and half 12. So if you do want to see the Chris Bob Williams, please get there between 12 and half 12. Get your pictures, have a little chat with him, signatures, whatever. Please get him because he's a top bloke, crazy bloke. And we had a little event last night as well for the defibrillators. If no one knows Amanda, Claire, and Malcolm, I've done and raised over £900, so that's fantastic for them as well. But yeah, it was a Bartman. So much stories that he told us about his career at Forest as well, ups and downs as well. But he's a top bloke. And it's like I said, people, if you do want to come and see Chris Bob Williams before the game, 12 o'clock at fan zone, please come because he's a top guy. Like I said, people, I'll be there as well with him. And if you want to get on a vlog and get your score predictions, please do. I won't be where I'm usually am. Like I said, I'll be in the fan zone. So if you do want to get a score prediction, please do. And I won't bite. But before I do, like I said, it's been a great stream. Like I said, thank you as well for Richard for coming on my show. Anything else in the tournament? Like I said, there's loads of content that is coming my way. Like I said, I've got 11 games to go. Got Wolves, got Leeds, massive games, all big games as well. So I'm so excited as well. Yeah, can't wait. But before I do go, can you do a massive favor for me, please? There's 50 people here and 19 likes. Before I do go, please hit the like button. if you can get me to 30 likes before the stream ends, just hit the like button. It helps my channel a lot as well. And if you want to do a quick donate to my channel as well, please do. Right, people, thank you very much for everyone coming on the show and watching the stream as well. And I say massive lemon games. Let's try and be positive. Let's try and be positive. And there's going to be ups and downs, but I'm going to say it, and I still believe in Steve Cooper. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you on Saturday at the Fan Zone. Peace and love, up the Forest.